Good morning, everyone. How does that feel to practice that pause? Have you been practicing your pause? What if I said for the next 18 minutes, I wasn't going to say a word and we were just going to practice the pause? How would that feel? You set your time aside today to dedicate yourself to the God within. That takes pausing. How many of you felt like you just had a little reaction come up within you thinking, oh my gosh, she is not going to make us sit here for 18 minutes? Don't test me. As a licensed Unity teacher, all kinds of things have shown up in the classroom. And that's not what we're going to do today. For some reason, I always feel like whenever I have the opportunity to speak, I need to share what metaphysical really means. Because in my outside world, there are a lot of people that say, well, what is unity? What is it really? And so as you explore unity, you will come across this term, metaphysics, which simply means beyond the physical. And for the purpose of this talk, that's what the pause is. It's beyond the activity of doing. It's that the physical stillness within where we begin to create. Sometimes here at Unity, we refer to ourselves as metaphysical Christianity. And what that really means is a deeper look into what Christianity really means for us. And how are we translating that? Well, we had a chance to pause, didn't we? COVID happened, right? Whether we liked it or not, we had a chance to pause. The question is, what did you do with that pause? Did you react and get angry and mad? Well, I did a little bit, I have to admit. Through this community, I met Reverend Tony Barron a number of years ago and Mari Reed, and I was enrolled into prison ministry for about 5 years at Halava and Waiava. And eventually, Reverend Tony asked me to join her wedding business, which I did. And about 6 months later, I said to her, I could do this myself, but I don't want to be a competitor. And Reverend Tony said to me, June, there's enough love and money for everyone. How can I support you? So here we are now, 12 years later, and a year of COVID. And up until now, I have myself and some of the other ministers here in our community have performed over 800 weddings with my wedding business. That's about 80 to 100 a year. Last year, I had 9. 9. Got that? 9. Sandra had 2. She's giving me the peace sign. I mean, for real, like that's a fact, right? I don't know what happened to you and your business. I know what happened to mine. But I also said, prior to the pandemic, man, I'm getting kind of sick of this. Could you imagine that, getting sick of love? It's possible, for real it is. I think I'm going to sell my business. So I looked at opportunities. I heard other people talking about it as well. And I said, I'm going to sell it. And then COVID happened. I went, oh, look, you get to take a break after all. I reworked my entire financial system. The 9 ceremonies that I have had, I have absolutely loved. It gave me time off to take a look at my life and what I was creating. What about you? What have you created in the last 9 months with this invitation from Source to grow? We saw a change in our political status of some sort in the last election. Did you feel a change within you? It's just not the political election. It's just not COVID. And it's just not you. It's the entire planet. So when you go into your belly aching and complaining like, oh, this happened to me, I want you to think twice. Last night as I was preparing, I came across a little story, and I remember lots of other ministers reading stories, and I thought to myself, oh, gee, can I do this? So I have a story. I don't really know if it fits, but I want to read it. And then shortly after midnight, when I rolled over and I'm like, man, I can't sleep. I'm giving this talk tomorrow. I open my phone, and there's a message from A Course in Miracles. And the Course in Miracles message says on my phone today, teach only love, for that is what you are. So I gave myself permission to read a story. Are you ready? An elderly man lived alone. He wanted to plant his annual tomato garden, but it was difficult to work the ground because it was so hard. And his only son, Vincent, who had helped him in the past years, was in prison. The man wrote a letter to his son and described his predicament. He said, "Dear Vincent, I'm feeling pretty sad because it looks like I won't be able to plant my tomato garden this year, and it's given me so much pleasure. I'm just getting too old to be digging up the garden plot. I know if you were here, my troubles would be over." Love, Papa. So a few days later, he gets a letter back. "Dear Pop, don't dig up the garden. That's where the bodies are buried. Love, Vinny." At 4 a.m. the next morning, the FBI agents and the local police arrive, and they dig up the entire area without finding any bodies. They apologized and left. On the same day, the old man received a letter from his son. "Dear Pop, go ahead and plant the tomatoes now. That's the best I could do under the circumstances." I wanted to share that story because I got a chuckle, and I'm asking you, what have you done under the best of your circumstances? What have you created in your life? Every morning you woke up, you all showed up here, and those of you that are online, you pressed a button, you showed up there or here with us. So what are you creating in your life today? Are you living a life of purpose, or are you just busy reacting to everything, instead of really pausing to notice what's going on? This is one of my favorite quotes. If you can see it, "The human mind loves certainty. The soul knows there is none. So why do we keep trying to be certain about things? When do we actually let go and let Source move through us?" I don't know if you've seen any of these things around. I see them in people's gardens. I see them at temples. I see them on people's mantles. I've often thought to myself, if I were a monk, how would I feel sitting around all day, just being? What would I do on my off time? Would I do like what everybody else does? Go out to dinner, go dancing, be creators in other ways? The Buddha himself worked on enlightenment. And so what are you doing to work on enlightenment for you? Over centuries and centuries of Buddhism have been around on our planet for us to take a look at. We walk past a reminder That's probably why there are Buddhas sitting all over the place, just to remind us, oh, have you been still today? What activates you? To stand in your ability of not knowing. This is a quote from Rumi. There is a voice that doesn't use words to listen. And so what would it be like to stand in the ability, your ability of not knowing what was next? Could you actually pause and just be? I remember when I first heard the word meditate, I thought to myself, oh, that must be for like those people. Whoever those people were. Maybe they were like yogi people or monks. And then I arrived at Unity, and they used the word meditate quite often, and it wasn't quite as scary. It was sort of like the word God. I heard the word God, and it just ruffled everything within me because I grew up in the Methodist community, and actually it was quite broad. We were broad-based, Methodist in La Jolla. But I never really understood God either. And really until I arrived at Unity, and it was another minister, Reverend Mary Morrissey. She used the acronym of God, which allowed me to land in the essence of this pause for myself and really look deeper into it. And it's good, orderly design. I said to myself, oh, I could get behind that, good, orderly design. Right? And who's doing the designing, I thought. I better hang out here at Unity a little bit longer. Maybe this meditation stuff is going to work out. Could I stand in the ability of not knowing? How often do you come across that place where a word ruffles you or something has energy for you and you're like, oh, well, they do it like that. Well, it takes one to know one. This is a little phrase I remember from childhood. If you smelt it, you dealt it. Do you remember that one? It's like looking in the mirror. You wouldn't know it if you didn't know it. And when you don't know it, do you look? Do you pause? Mastery doesn't come overnight. Rumi was a mystic from, I think, like the 14th century. And we're still practicing his words today. And then there's the escape artist, Jesus. Do you know he went to the desert for 40 days and 40 nights just to have a think? He wasn't a monk. He had to go pause. What would be wrong with you taking one day a week and putting a button on that says, I'm in silence? Could you explain that to somebody? Just one day a week. What if it was just 1 hour? What if you gave yourself 15 minutes a day to pause? In the book of Matthew, chapter 4, verses 1 through 11, on the first Sunday of Lent, Jesus is tempted into the desert. On the first Sunday of Lent, that happens to be 2 weeks from today. However, when are you not tempted? It doesn't have to be the first Sunday of Lent. It could have been yesterday. It could have been 3 days ago, and something is still lingering for you. So have you paused to ask yourself, what is God trying to show me? What is good, orderly design setting me up for? Where is the success in that story for me? Where are all my needs being met? Lent is a great time to do some release. I've thought about it myself, cleaning out my closet, cleaning out my emails. What are you going to release? And are you going to wait? I spoke with a fellow coach recently, and she gave me this wonderful quote. on being. Actually, it's an acronym. I'm not sure if you can see it. Born to express the infinite nature of God. We were having this conversation about the word human and being, and I thought, how on earth did those two words ever get put together? Who did that to us? A human, the science, and the being. It's like a metaphysical word, right? Born to express the infinite nature of God. And that's half of what we are. So we fight that continual battle, that balance, that dance of being in the pause. The Dalai Lama said, people take different roads seeking fulfillment and happiness. Just because they're not on the road you're on doesn't mean they've gotten lost. If somebody's not dancing on the same road as you, it's okay. In unity, we believe that all roads lead to the same path. And the path that you're on is the right path for you. And so I'll ask you, what does your tool look like? Right? It's worth the effort to take a look at all the different tools because some land and some don't. Some tools break, some tools never break, some tools are tired and true. I have one friend, and his tool is called the 5-minute journal. I think he's been writing in it for 8 years. Every now and then he presents his book to me, and I'm just in awe. Like, that's his tool. And it works. Some people go to meditation daily up at the temple in Pololo Valley. Some people take 15 minutes a day. There are so many Zen tools for creating your practice. Maybe it's just working on being awake. Maybe it's watching those urges that come up for you. Are you transforming through your urges? Maybe it's watching those ideals or judgments. That could be a tool for transformation. Are you accepting people in their life as they are? Are you letting go of your expectations? Those are tools for transformation. And then lastly, become okay with discomfort. Because some tools, while they're really tough to get used to, they could work. I was on Clubhouse this morning. It's this new app, and I hopped into a Clubhouse room called A Course in Miracles. And I was listening to everybody share this morning, and I thought to myself, oh, I want to get in and say something. I want to get in and say something. And I thought, June, it's not, you don't always have to say something. Maybe you could just listen. And every word provided a tool for me to feel confident to know that I was enough and what I was delivering was coming from love and not fear. Even though, I'll tell you, I have an extra undergarment on because I was worried I would be too perspiry for today. I was worried. And I thought, if I wear a white suit, will my perspiration show? Because most of you know, if you've heard me speak before, I have a really good looking good program. Like, you know, I always have to look good, right? Especially in the presence of God. And guess what? If I am created in the image and likeness of God and what I look like, when I look in the mirror, I feel happy about, that's what matters most. When you look in the mirror and you see the image and likeness of God, it's you. It's the beautiful you that you are and however you are. And you get to decide, you get to choose. Sometimes it takes us laughing at ourselves. And I always like to share a little personal something because I feel like if I don't, it's not connecting with you and all of a sudden you tune out or you might be falling asleep. And so laughter is really important. This was a class I taught a number of years ago called something about laughing teachers. And these two teachers here are both Unity ministers. That's Reverend Margie and Reverend Gary Kanye. And you can see Margie has a red nose. One of those tools for transformation is laughter. And so I encourage you, if you haven't laughed for a long time and you need a deep belly laugh, look for something that matches your come from. I recently was introduced to a man named Dave Chappelle. I don't know how many of you know him. He just cracks me up, and I have a friend that sends me regular updates on him, and I just allow myself to sit there and cut it up. And so find something that brings you joy, because that is also a tool for transformation. And the last thing I want to say is sometimes love takes time. It takes a lot of time, and sometimes we just really have to pause and allow it to unfold. And there was somebody that was a member of our community that passed away a number of years ago. His name was J.R. Coleman. I don't know if you remember him. He kind of looked like Jack Palance. He was a tall, slender, Caucasian man, gray hair, white hair. And he had a book called Pearl Drops of Aloha. And he was working on this deck called the Heart Cards. And I remembered him sharing them with me, and he was quite driven for this. And actually, we once upon a time had a date. And while we were in a match, he kept working on his projects. And then I spoke for the men's group and became good friends with all of the gentlemen in the group. And then one of our friends, Chip Phelps, said, June, why don't you invite Jack to be on, or JR to be on your show? It's all about love on Olelo. And so I did. And 3 months later, I heard that J.R. Coleman had passed away. And about 6 months later, I had a meeting with Chip, because love takes time. Chip said, June, J.R. had the heart cards, and he bequeathed them to me. I don't know what to do with them, and you're getting ready to publish your book. May I sign them off to you? And I thought to myself, oh my word, what am I going to do? I am so sick of myself and social media right now, and now you're giving me a deck of heart cards to polish up, create, and add to? All right, give it to me. So I got a big gray bin, and over the process of another year, I worked to complete JR's deck of cards. As a truth student, we never give up on love. I became the vessel for these cards to come forward. And I share it today because it took a lot of pausing for me to decide, am I going to take this on in my life? What am I going to do? And my invitation for you is to take a look when you pause. What are you taking on? Where are you saying yes and where are you saying no? Because your boundaries are worth it. Your no's are worth it, and your yeses are worth it. And you get to decide what they are worth. So this deck of heart cards looks like this. And they're down in Deja Vu. And I couldn't be more proud of them. In the deck of cards, without repeating the story, there's a little brochure in here with the creator about J.R. Coleman. And it is my absolute honor, particularly as Valentine's Day comes up, that you know that these cards are not it's not a game, it's not an oracle, and it's not a tarot deck. It's a work of love. And I know he wanted this to live on, and when Reverend Margie invited me to share this, I thought to myself, if I could just pause for love myself, maybe my life would look a little bit different. And so as I pause for love today, I pause for Lent, and I pause for this transformation. I am asking what works for me. I want you to ask what tool works for you. By the way, tool is a 4-letter word, and so is God. God within me, that 3-letter word. Good, orderly design. And so it is.